Well, it's time to play Atari again, and I'm in the mood for a little bit of Pac-Man, so why don't we, no, we're not playing this pile of shit. Nope. Get that out of the way. We ain't playing that one. I want a good Pac-Man on Atari. Come on, give me one of those. Okay, Miss Pac-Man. We can play Miss Pac-Man, but, we could use a little more Miss Pac-Man these days, but, no, we want to play some OG Pac-Man. And okay, Junior Pac-Man. This is probably the best Pac-Man on Atari 2600 if we're being honest here. But no, you're missing the plot here. I want to play some proper. Okay, Miss Pac-Man on 7800. You can never go wrong with Miss Pac-Man. But I'm looking for a little more OG Pac-Man and Pac-Man collection. Now we're talking my language. Yeah, nice homebrew game from way back when. Probably the first time I bought a homebrew game. This ain't too shabby either, but for today's purposes, I think we need something a little more newer and recent, and there we go. The Pac-Man Double Feature for Atari 7800. But I don't know. Do we really want to play this on this rinky-dink Atari 2600 Plus? I mean, we all love the wood grain, I'm sure. I'm more of a 7800 guy myself, but I don't know. We need something a little. Let me do some magic here. Zoo. Boo! Now it's yellow. Huzzahs. It's got little pack logos on it too. I'm going to pop this in. We're going to play some Pac-Man. And the table's going to start. Ooh. Ah. Yes. Still wish it were an Atari 7800, but this'll do. I like this. Oh, we should probably talk about the game, I guess. Yeah, so a funny thing happened in 2025 when Atari and Namco got back in bed together, resulting in some Atari ports of Namco arcade classics coming back into the fold. Atari 50 is either getting or just got the Namco Legendary DLC with a few choice games, including that 2600 Pac-Man game. And for those with Atari Plus systems, you're getting vintage 7800 re-releases of Galaga, Dig Dug, and the Dangerously Devious Xevious. But in addition to all that lies another curious addition and the subject of today's video, Pac-Man Double Feature, a new 2025 release for the Atari Plus line that contains two games underneath the hood, the original 1983 conversion of Pac-Man for the 2600, unedited, unchanged, and unloved. No, really, nobody likes this game, and if someone says they do, they're either lying or they're actually thinking about Miss Pac-Man or Junior Pac-Man, which are both far better games than this. Either way, they're still lying. And don't tell me you like this game, because then I know you're full of shit. Lie to yourselves if you want, but I digress. But also included and accessible via a flick of the switch, literally, and pretty much the main draw for me at least, is a brand spanking new version of Pac-Man for the Atari 7800 Pro system, courtesy of a familiar name. Bob DiCrescenzo, who has helmed many 7800 homebrews in the past, including a particular favorite of mine, the Pac-Man collection, a substantially updated version of Atari's original Miss Pac-Man conversion on 7800, with plenty of mazes and options to guarantee some considerable replay value. And while this new Pac-Man doesn't come close to matching the content included in that earlier homebrew effort, it more than makes up for it with an astounding attempt at near arcade perfection. It doesn't quite get there, but it's close enough, at least within the limits of the hardware. Which is still kind of amazing, the sort of stuff that could have been done back in the 7000s prime if anyone at the Atari Corporation had anything resembling functioning brain matter, but I digress. Right, so as a solo release, Pac-Man Double Feature is supposed to see release in December, where you could get a boxed copy. However, released a month earlier is a new Atari 2600 Plus Pac-Man Edition console, which is just the pre-existing 2600 Plus system with a new Pac-Man color scheme, a wireless Pac-Man yellow joystick, and the Double Feature pack-in title. Hence how we're able to get this game out the door at this point in time. So yeah, obviously I bought another one of these things because fuck me, I guess I need my Pac-Man fix earlier. And also I actually like the yellow color scheme, it almost looks like a toy, and the wireless controller, I could take it or leave it. I've never been a big fan of the 2600 joystick, but it works well enough I suppose. Anything, it makes me want to fetch for the wireless 7800 pad, which I don't mind and actually prefer, but that's neither here nor now. Anyway, I assume you're familiar with how Pac-Man works. After all, the little mother pucker's been around for over 45 years at this point. But if not, you move a yellow circle thing around a maze, you eat all the dots, avoid the ghosts, eat the bigger power pellets to turn the ghosts blue and make them edible for bonus points, lather, rinse, repeat until the game eventually crashes or you eventually die and lose all your lives. There's not much else to go by here. You have an option menu that lets you toggle your starting lives, your starting level, whether you want to play the game at normal speed or with a considerably sped up Pac-Man that's harder to control, nothing out of the ordinary. And if you want to go beyond the stock Pac-Man maze, there's an option called Random Mazes which, as the name implies, generates some random mazes for you to tackle, which does give the game some extra flavor it would not have gotten otherwise. Also, if you fiddle around with the TV mode switch that changes from color to black and white or vice versa, presumably the pause button on a 7800 proper works on this too, I haven't tested it yet, you can enable a hidden option that lets you play the game in its arcade format, or you could play a slightly tweaked version of the old 2600 port with a redesigned maze, or if you prefer, enable random mazes for more random mazes in that mode. And look, does this redeem the maligned 2600 conversion? Of course not, it's still terrible, but it is a nice Easter egg regardless. Though a nicer Easter egg would have been including the misses, but whatever, that horse has been beaten pretty much dead at this point. In any event, Pac-Man on 7800 plays about as well as you'd expect any pristine port of Pac-Man to play at this point. The control feels generally solid, the gameplay is almost on par with what you get in the arcade, you've got all the bonus items represented and selectable on the menu, the intermissions are pretty much accounted for. All things considered, the game as a whole feels pretty true to the arcade original, right down to the mannerisms of the individual ghosts. And the random mazes option does give the game that added bit of replay value should you want something a little more. Could you have done more content-wise? Possibly, but at the same time I don't think that's the point, and I really don't think it matters all that much either. And it's worth noting that the graphics are pretty much a spot-on recreation of the arcade graphics. Sprites look the same, maze looks fairly accurate, going so far as to fill the entire screen, with score, lives, and bonus items neatly set aside for maximum fitting. Sure, there's a couple things that give it away. Slight color misses and the animation of Pac-Man gobbling up ghosts is suspect, but these are minor blemishes on an otherwise fine tracing of arcade artwork. Even the sound almost hits the mark. Sure, the music and some sounds are still distinctly 7800-esque, the jingles are certainly very Atari sounding, but most of the sounds and waka wakas are pretty spot on. If there's a pokey chip involved, I'm not sure why you couldn't go all the way with all the sounds to make them better, but if there isn't, then what this port manages is pretty damn impressive considering the standards of sound output you'd normally expect from the 7800 without enhanced pokey sound. Overall, Pac-Man Double Feature rectifies a long-standing Atari blemish by giving 7800 owners an official Pac-Man release that's worthy of their console, with a pristine conversion of the arcade classic. It only took them 4 decades to outdo Namco's own Famicom port, but shit, they eventually got the job done. And the console it comes with is pretty sweet, with some minor hardware revisions and firmware updates to ensure further compatibilities. Whether that's enough to warrant a hardware upgrade over prior Atari Plus consoles is not for me to say. That's dependent entirely on the individual. But Double Feature is a sure step above previous Pac Atari efforts, and with the inclusion of the 2600 port, you could pretty much toss that other cart in the bin where it belongs because you don't need it anymore. Pac-Man Double Feature gets a solo release in December, and will not be gracing Atari 50 via DLC, and while it may not be the best way to play Pac-Man today, obviously, It is the best way to play Pac-Man on an Atari console, and at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Don't worry, Pac-Man Collection. You're still my first love. Now that we got that out of the way, we'll play something else.